if you want to save these recordings, otherwise they will disappear after 30 days. Okay. Graphing horizontal and vertical lines. So usually the only mistakes that students make here is that they mix up the graphs of x equals and y equals, and the only reason why they mix it up is because usually your y-axis is vertical and your x-axis is horizontal, but when we're drawing these graphs, x equals -2 is a straight vertical line. So it's the opposite. So if you're thinking x equals -2 is, you know, a horizontal, it isn't. X equals -2 is a vertical line, whereas a y equals to 1 is a horizontal line. 1. So vertical lines are x equals, horizontal lines are y equals. So the opposite of your axes. All right, now it should be easy. So if I said draw y equals -3, it's not this way, right? That's wrong. It's the opposite, which means it's this way. Draw your arrowheads. There it is at -3. Draw x equals 3. It's not this way. That's wrong. X equals 3 is right here. And another way to see it, to show that it does actually make sense. If I told you what is the point here, well, you know the x value is 3, but the y value is 2. What about here? Well, the x value is still 3, and the y value is changing. So in fact, if you go anywhere on this line, your x value is always 3. And that's how you know what you've drawn is correct. X equals 3. Same thing with this one. If I said, what is the y value here? Well, the y value, y, is -3. Well, what if I said, what is it here? Well, your y is still -3. It's just that your x's are changing, which isn't a problem for y equals -3. So you can see it logically as well. Any questions there?
No.
Beautiful. All right, what about if I had to identify the equations of the following lines? So what would this be? Is this an x or is this a y?
Y.
Y equals
-2.
Done. And of course, this one would be an x equals +3. Nice and simple. To me personally, I just think of it's the opposite. That's what I've memorized since I was your age. I've just gone, okay, if it's a vertical line, it's the opposite of the y-axis, which means it's x equals. If it's a horizontal line, it's the opposite of the x, which means a y equals. Easy. All right. So of course, this one here, I'm going to label it. So when I send you this new booklet with our new solutions, you'll see it says homework. Okay, so you'll know exactly what homework is. Example 25. Very simple.
Are we doing all of example 25?
Yeah, that should take you no more than, let's say, that one takes you 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds. It shouldn't take you more than 20 seconds. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I agree. Explain why the equation of the x-axis is y equals to 0. The x-axis is obviously right here. This is the x-axis. And if I draw y equals to 0, y equals to 0 on it right there, you can tell that the x values are changing, right? Because if I said a number here or a number here or a number here, The x values are changing on this red line. The x values are changing, but y is still always, your y value has not shifted up or anything. It's still always 0, which means the x-axis is y equals to 0. So, and we just want a bit of an explanation, and you can say it the way I've said it. The x's are all changing, but the y will never change. It will be always equal to 0, and that's why it's on the x-axis. Okay. Select the equation of the line that is. Okay. Now, do we know what parallel means compared to perpendicular? Can someone tell me what parallel means compared to perpendicular? If I've got a line like this, I think we know what parallel is. I don't want to confuse you guys. I'm sure we know parallel means it's exactly follows the same line, has the same gradient. They can never intersect, right? So they have the same gradient. So therefore they will never intersect. They will never do this. So parallel line, same gradient, will never intersect. So it has to be parallel. Compared to perpendicular, who can tell me what perpendicular means?
They meet at a right angle.
They meet at a right angle. Beautiful. So that would be perpendicular. Meet at a right angle. Fantastic. So meet in the corner somewhere. Yep. All right, so let's do example 27. Select the equation of the line that is parallel to x equals -7. Okay, how do we draw that? I forgot x this way, horizontal. No, careful. If you look at it, if you by accident drew that, just look. Your x's are changing. X is -10 here. X is -6 here. X is 0 here. X is 4 here. X is 10 here. So you've drawn the wrong one. And if you ever forget, do that. Otherwise, it's the opposite. So if you're thinking x's are this way, opposite meaning it's got to go this way. So that's -7. And there's my x-axis. X equals -7. And we want it to be parallel to this and passing through the origin. So it's got to be parallel, which means, you know, that would be parallel, that would be parallel. I mean, I'm not drawing it very straight, but you guys get the idea. But they've got to pass through the origin, which is right there. Which one would that be? Y equals to -7 or x equals to 0?
X equals 0.
Yeah, I think we know that one. X equals to 0. Select the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the y equals to 9. So first thing you draw is y equal to 9. So there's 9. There's my line. Y equals to 9. It has to pass through point 5 and 2. So x is 5. This is at 2. Y is 2. Zoom in a little bit there. And it's going to be perpendicular to this, so not parallel. Perpendicular will look something like this. So first thing I know is that it's no longer y equals. So I know those two are wrong. It's definitely x equals. Now, is it x equals to 5 or is it x equals to 2?
X equals 5.
X is obviously always equal to 5 here. This is y. Y is 2. So be careful with that, and voila. All right, any questions about example 27 or example 28?
No.
Anybody else? Let me know if I'm going too fast. Darius, you keeping up with this?
Yeah.
Yep, good. All right, let's go. Example 29. What is the point where the horizontal line and the vertical line meet? I might leave that one for homework. That one's easy. You're just going to draw a horizontal line that goes through here and a vertical line that goes through here, and wherever they meet, I want that point. Very easy. That one's also homework. All right, that's done. Graphing straight lines using a table of values. A very good method, table of values. It will work for you from pretty much year 9, year 10, year 11, all the way up to year 12 actually. We use table of values. So it is a very good method to finding all types of graphs. So right now, up to year 10, you look at lines, but then once we get into year 11 and 12, you start looking at like other curves that are not just lines, and we're still going to do them via table of values. So not a bad method. It's not the best method, but it is a good method. Let's just keep it at that. It's good. So good method to get used to. If you're ever stuck graphing a line, just keep in mind, hey, I can just draw a quick table of values, give me the points, and then just follow the points, connect the dots, and you should be good. So roughly these are some steps that I've got for you. To graph a straight line, complete a table of values. Use each column of the table of values as a pair of coordinates. So that would be like one pair, that would be another pair, that's another pair, that's another pair. Plot these points, draw a straight line through the points, place arrows on either side of the line, and label your line. All right, let's do it. So if you follow those steps, you should be able to get full marks every single time. Let's make sure we know how to use this table of values. So we've got y equals x plus 3. That's the equation that we're trying to draw. Right, we're trying to draw this. All we're trying to do first is find our y values. All you do is obviously substitute x is -1. So y equals -1 plus 3, that gives me 2. Y equals 0 plus 3, that gives me 3. Y equals 1 plus 3, that should give me 4. Y equals 2 plus 3, that gives me 5. Any questions of how I've done any of those?
No.
A good point I want to make before we continue is if I gave you the table, how to actually get this. I can safely say 9 out of 10 students can't do that. If I gave you a table, how to get this. And the trick to it, we will be doing these questions, but the trick to it that I want you to start realizing from now is look at this number here. That's a 1. Look at what this is going up by. That's how you know what number this is. So whatever number this is going up by will always be this number here. And then wherever you see 0 for x, whatever the y value is, 3, will be your y value here as well. So these two must match, and pretty much these two must match. The difference between 2 and 3. That's how you get your equation if you ever have to go backwards. So probably one of the weakest skills for a lot of high school students. They don't know how to go from the table to the equation. They know how to go from the equation to the table, but they can't do it backwards. So we'll be doing questions like that, but I thought since we're starting it like this, you might as well keep an eye out for that. All right, and then x equals -1, y is 2, x is 0, y is 3, x is 1, y is 4, x is 1, y is 4, x is 2, y is 5. Draw a straight line. As straight as you can. Draw your arrowheads at the end. I usually don't label them unless I've got two graphs on the same one, on the same line, but let's just label it anyways. Y equals x plus 3. Pretty straightforward. Any questions?
Sam,
Mm-hmm.
how would you work backwards? So if they give you the
Table?
no, if they give you the, what's it called, the graph but not the table, and then you have to fill in the table from the graph.
Well, exactly the same way, right? So you would have this table, you would have this graph, let's say. Then you know what is this point? You would label that point as -1 and 2. So you technically make your table. then you'll go 0 and 3, 0 and 3. Then you'll go, okay, I've got this point 1 and 4, 1 and 4. So pretty much this is what you're saying to me. You're saying, Sam, what if I got, what if I had was given step 3? Let's call this one step 3. Well, if I just told you you have to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, but if they gave you only step 3, well, what's going to be the strategy? Well, it's going to be start from step 3, get to step 2, then from step 2, you get to step 1.
Yeah.
So there's no way you're going to go from here to here, if that's what you're trying to say. You have to go from here, get your table. From your table, we're going to learn how to get to here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
That's fine. Good
So
question, actually, because that will come up in some of the harder questions. And yeah, it's exactly the opposite. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
So will we learn how to, will you teach us how to,
Yeah,
like,
of
from the
course.
table make the formula?
Yep, absolutely. Everything that you will get asked in an exam, I'll go through. So let's do this one. Again, keep an eye out for what I just said here. See if it's true. Right? Let's see. So let's first fill it out, and we'll see what happens. So to get my y, it's 2 times -1 minus 3. Plug that into your calculator, otherwise some of you probably can just see the answer, -5. Sub in 0, 2 times 0 is 0, take away 3 is -3. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 take away 3 is -1, and last one is 1. Can we see that it's going up by 2? So now you know that number there is 2. Exactly what I said. Right, it's going up by 2, and that's 2. Can you see how I said wherever you see 0, it's also going to be your last number. See where it's 0, it's your last number, -3. But there will be cases where it's not 0 here, and I'll show you what to do with those ones as well. But for now, nice and simple. And then graph. -1, -5. 0, -3. 1, -1. 2, and 1. I'll just put everything in and then draw your line. Hopefully better than me. Oh, what is that? Let's start down here. Something like that. Draw your arrowheads. Okay. Any questions there? All right. This one I'll leave for homework. Just complete one table, do one graph. Nice and simple. That one can also be done for homework. That one's an easy one. So we'll do it for homework. This one we'll do together. So this one says y equals to 4, take away 3x on 2. Nothing too dramatic. Let's start. So y equals 4, take away 3, open bracket, your x is now -1 on 2. If you plug it into your calculator exactly as I write it, you'll always get the right answer. So 4, take away, and then 3, open bracket, -1, close bracket onto, it should give you positive 5.5 to 5.5. Then let's do it again. 4, take away 3 times 0, which we know is 0, and that should give you 4. And then at 1, it should give us 2.5. And then at 2, it should give us 1. Let's see if you guys agree. Look at 0. There's your term that's by itself, 4. And then the number in front of your x. What's this? What's the difference between each of these here?
1.5.
And is it increasing or decreasing?
Decreasing.
That's why it's a -1.5. right? Because negative 3 over 2 is the same as me saying 4 take away 1.5x. So you can see, again, and you could have written this, by the way. I know a lot of students say, can we write it like this? Negative 1.5x plus 4, of course, it's the same thing. As long as your signs are in the right place, it's the same equation. It doesn't matter which one you write, you'll get 4 marks. So you guys can see now, hopefully, a little bit of a taste of how to go backwards to get your graph. Okay, and then negative 1, and 5.5. So 5 is there, 5.5 somewhere there. 0 and 4, 1 and 2.5 somewhere there, and 2 and 1 somewhere there. Draw your line, and we're done. Nothing too complicated. Any questions there?
No.
No. Good. Very good. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that one right now. All right, done. So you can see this is a bit, let's say, an applied question. Liam's BAC, that's blood alcohol content, decreases over time according to the formula B equals 0.04 minus 0.014 H, where H is the time after drinking in hours. Sketch this line below. Who's confused?
Me.
So that means I got you. But you got to not let us get you. You've got to just think, okay, well, Sam's just always said to sketch, we need a table of values. And it's just always been y equals to x, and then just label a few numbers and we should be good to go. That's exactly what this is. It's just instead of it being a simple y and x, I labeled as b and h. But this can be your y, this is your x. There's your y, there's your x. Then, just to make it a little bit harder, I put Liam in there and I put some background information and some time after drinking and sketch. But in other words, I could have made it look simple like this, or I could have made it look hard like this. But both require the same amount of work. But it's funny, once I give it like this, everyone goes, oh, I can't do this. This is what you've got to do. Think of it exactly the same. So there's my equation. If you want to write it with y's, if that makes it look easier for you, then you can do that. It won't make a difference. And then draw your table of value. There's your x's, there's your y's. Pick some numbers. I'm going to pick a half because they've given me a half. They're giving me 1, 1.5, so that's what I'm going to choose. 1.5. Oh, I didn't choose 0. Let's choose 0 as well. 0 right at the beginning. 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2. All right, let's go. Plug this into our calculator. So y equals 0.04. Take away 0.014 times 0. Right, x is 0. That should give me 0.04. Now I don't have my calculator with me. Can someone help me out with 0.5? Plug it in. 0.04 minus 0.014 times 0.5. What's the answer? 0.5.
0.03.
0.03. Thank you. The next one should be 40, 14, 28, 0.028. 028, if I'm not wrong. Confirm that, someone, for me.
0.026.
Oh, 2, of course, because it's 14. simple math I can't do anymore. We'll have 1.5, plug it in 1.5 now, and plug in 2, and give me those last two answers, please.
One point five is 0.019.
0.019,
19.
and then 2, 0.012.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, all right. Okay. All right, so as you can see, just bad numbers, but we haven't done anything fancy. Cool, we just go, put 0, it's 0.04, somewhere there. At 0.5, it's 0.3, somewhere there, or 0.03. At 1, it's 0.026. So there's 0.02. Now what's it going up by? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so it's going 0.0, just so you guys can read this, 0.022. So it's going up by 2s, 0.024, 0.026, 0.0228, 30. So 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. So 0.026 is literally there. Something doesn't look right. At a half is a 0.03. So it doesn't look like a straight line. Zero point zero 33. 0.033. Now you see, one small little number made a world of a difference, because I could see it's not there. It's not, it wasn't looking like a line. So that's 30, that's 32, 33, somewhere there. And then at 1.5, it should be 0.026, which we just did. At 1.5, it should be 0.019, 0.019, so 19, which was just before the 20. And then 12. At 2, it's at 12, so 12 would be right there. And you can see I've got pretty much a straight line happening. Just draw it out. Oh, hopefully you get to go through all your dots. And obviously you guys would use a ruler. If you want it even more accurate, you could have kept going for 2.5 and for 3, but that's okay. So for those who said, yes, this looks scary or it looks hard, you can tell, yes, the numbers are a little bit annoying because you're dealing with very small numbers, but the reality is it's pretty much the same kind of math. I'm putting 0 in, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, whatever, into my x values, finding the y values, and then just plotting it. The only thing you have to watch out for here is scale. So you can see that it's going up by 5, that means you've got to split, that means it's going up by 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, and so on. So that's one thing you've got to keep in mind, the scale. And same thing here, it's going up by 1s here though. 0.1, 0.2, 3, 4, 5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Okay, so you can't say this is harder than this because it's not meant to be. It's meant to be the same. It's just that it's applied. And I know a lot of students obviously get this wrong and they find it hard, but it's not meant to be a hard question. So just keep that in mind. Don't try to change your math. Don't let the words scare you either. Just if you have to, like, that doesn't do nothing. all you've got is that equation. You don't really care about anything else, and you just care about this word here. So really, it's just those two pieces of information that's important to you. All right. Any questions before I move on from here? All right. Good work. You don't need to do the exercises right now. That's not what we're trying to do just yet. Okay. A little bit more advanced now. So this one here, graphing straight lines. So like I said, tables of values that we just did above. We did table of values. It was good. X and Y intercepts are great. They give you even more accuracy than a table of value, and there is no need to exactly go ahead and substitute for all different numbers. Remember, table of values is good. It gets the job done, so always useful. But X and Y intercepts are probably the better version for you. The thing is, if the question specifically asks to find using X and Y intercepts, then unfortunately you have to do it, and you can't use the table of values. You'll get the same graph, you just won't get the right answer because it asks you to find X and Y intercepts. Okay, so these are the steps. To graph a straight line using the intercepts, we substitute X equals 0, and we find, so X equals 0, and you find the Y intercept. You substitute Y equals 0, you find the X intercept. You only need to plot these 2 points, and then you just draw a straight line, and then place your arrows, and you're done. So, let's do it. So we've got Y equals to 2X take away 2. I like to call it Sam's box. I think some people just, I don't know why, they found it a lot easier to memorize when I draw them a box, and we'll just call it Sam's box because it's nothing fancy. We go X equals 0, we write comma, you're trying to find the Y value, and then you'll do Y equals to 0, and you're trying to find the X value. So let's just call it that and see if it helps you guys out. A little bit of equation skills is required here. So let me know if we do these equations, if you are confused, because that's not part of this topic, of course, that's part of your algebra and equations topic that we might need to revise over. So when X equals 0, that's the first step. So when X equals 0, it'll look something like this. X is 0, and therefore we get Y equals to -2. That's your Y intercept. Easy? When Y equals to 0, now the Y bit here is equal to 0, it'll look something like this. 0 equals 2x minus 2. And look what you're solving for. You're solving for x. Can you see in this equation, you're about to solve for x. So you're going to plus the 2. And then we're going to divide everything by 2 because you're solving for x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Anyone confused about that step right there? There usually is, so let me know, please.
I'm confused overall. Like.
Good.
Could you just redo it?
Sorry. Yeah, of course. Good. No, that's good. Thank you. Anybody else otherwise as well?
I'm confused.
Good. Thank you. All right, that's good. That's not a problem. So let's take one step back. Okay. So we're trying to sketch the following lines. Now, before we learned table of values, right? This time it's saying instead of table of values, we want to sketch the same line using a new method, which is called the X and Y intercepts method. The way to find your X and Y intercepts is Sam's box. And it looks something like this. If you're trying to find the y-intercept, you let x equal to 0. If you're finding the x-intercept, you have to let y equal to 0. So it's opposites. Let's stop there for a second. Does that bit make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting it now.
That makes sense, firstly?
Yep.
So to find the y-intercept, we make x equal to 0. And to find the x-intercept, we have to let y equal to 0. All good? Now, let's do the first bit, right? So I've got to find the y value. You got an equation. Look, you got an equation right there. And if you want to find the y value, it's saying you got to make the x part equal to 0. So it will look something like this. Y equals 2. That becomes 0. And then 2 times 0 is 0. Take away 2. Voila. Do we agree with that one? That's usually an easy one. But do we understand what I've just done there?
Yeah.
100%? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, done. Everybody else? We all agree as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
done. So x is 0. I replace it. I replace the x for 0, and then literally simplify that or solve for the y value because that's what you're solving for. Y equals -2. Done. You found your y-intercept. So this is called the y-intercept, in other words. Now I need to find the x-intercept. To find my x-intercept, I let y equal to 0. So again, look at your equation. There it is. You're solving for x. So we're solving for this letter. That means I've got to make this y value equal to 0. And that would look like this. Do we agree with this line? What I've written firstly here. How y equals 0.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And now what letter are you trying to solve for when you see this equation right here?
X.
X, right? You're solving for x, of course, because there's no other letter. Because you've made the y bit become 0. So how do we solve for x? Well, if you guys remember, you leave this 2 to the end. You first plus the 2 to this side. Then you've got to get rid of this 2 that's here by dividing both sides by 2. Which means x equals to +1. So that's just equations. Now, do we understand everything now?
Yeah.
It's
I
got to
got
be
it
at
now.
100. Even if it's at 90, don't say yes. If it's at 100, say, yep, I actually get it, and then we'll just do a lot more, obviously. First, do we get that? Yeah, you reckon yes or no now?
Yeah, I got it now.
Good.
Same.
Anybody that goes, well, I'm a little bit rusty maybe at this equation steps, or I don't know, anything?
Same.
Yes?
A little bit.
Hmm?
Since the x is on the right side,
Yes?
how did you get +1?
It's the same as you writing, so you're allowed to write 0 equals 2x take away 2, or you're allowed to write 2x take away 2 equals 0. So it doesn't matter if it's on the right side or the left side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? So you could have plus the 2 and then divided by 2. Same math.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Whichever one you're comfortable with. So Darius, if you're comfortable with the left one, then do the left only. If you're comfortable with the right, do the right. But you've got to be comfortable with both. Eventually, you have to get comfortable with both because you're not doing anything different. You're just doing it to the other side. So plussing the 2 to the left side and then dividing 2 to the left side. And then x equals to 1. Good. All right. So we'll do more, but let's have a look at this now. So if we're saying now we've got x is 1, y is 0. X is 1, y is 0. That one right there, that point. X is 1, y is 0. This one is X is 0, y is negative 2. X is 0, y is negative 2. There and there. Again, confirm you see that. X is 0, y is negative 2. X is 0, which means right there. Y is negative 2, which means right there. The next one. X is 1. Y is 0. X is 1, right there. Y is 0, right there. Then all you've got to do when you've got these 2 points, you draw a straight line through those 2 points only. And that's you graphing the line straight away. As you get faster with this, I promise you, you will like this method. It's just that it's a bit rusty because it's your first time. This concept, just so you know, usually takes 3 weeks to master. So we won't master it today. We'll revise it next week, and then in the 3rd week of our lessons, I think that's when you guys will say, yes, we actually fully get this. So just give us some time, do a few questions, and then you'll be surprised. Okay, let's try it again. Let's do it again. Sam's box. All right, I think we get the box. I just call it Sam's box as somehow everyone tends to remember it when it's like that compared to X and Y steps. So you let X equals 0, you're going to find the Y. You let Y equals 0, you'll find your X. Okay, let's start. What do I do? What's my first step?
So y
Yep, Y equals
equals 9 minus 6 in brackets 0, and then close bracket over 3. Yeah.
perfect. So you're pretty much, if you want to make it even simpler, you're just changing your X's for 0.
Yeah.
0. Yeah, you're changing your X's for 0. So that's pretty much gone. 6 times 0 is gone. You can just ignore that. You just got 9 over 3, which is 3. So like I said, your y-intercept will usually be pretty easy for a lot of your questions. They won't be too complicated. It's this other one that's complicated. So when y equals to 0. All right, let's try that one now. Again, y is 0, so it looks like this. Y is 0. Again, you can clearly tell what letter you're solving for, but here I've even written x equals, so we're solving for x, but just looking at this green equation, you should straight away tell you're solving for x. There's no other letters. So what's the first step? I gotta get rid of this 3. What do I do with that? How do I get rid of this division of 3?
Times 3.
So get rid of it, times 3 on this side, times 3 on this side. What's 0 times 3?
0.
0. That saves a lot of time. Okay, we're up to here. Or let's just do it the other way around, since Darius likes it like that. There you go. You can write equals to 0. It doesn't matter how you change. You can change that around. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're solving for x. Don't forget. So what's the next thing that I'm going to do?
Minus 9 from both sides.
Minus 9 from both sides. Beautiful. You can see why we emphasize equations for so long, because we know as you guys come into this stage of your maths career, it's pretty much in every topic. And then what do we do to everything now?
Divided by negative 6.
Divide it by negative 6. Good job for those who said divided as well. And that should give you 3 on 2. Or in other words, 1.5. So it's up to you what you write. I'll just write or 1.5. Very rarely will you ever see us write a mixed numeral. We don't really use that past like year 7, I guess. So don't really write mixed numerals. But anyways, more decimals for graphs. Otherwise, improper fractions for everything else. Every other topic, we usually write everything in improper fractions. For graphs, decimals. Just because where is 3 over 2? It's a little bit harder to identify. compared to 1.5. All right, let's plot this in. Let's see if it's making, x is 1.5, so x is 1.5 right there, and y is 0, so that's 1.5, and y is 3. Y is 3, where x is 0. And then just draw a straight line. And you're done. That's that graph. So there's less substitution, as you can see, less table of values. There's a bit more equations. How was that as a second question? Better now?
Yeah.
If you're having
Yeah.
problems with the equations, please let me know. If this bit here is the part you're confused about, or you just want me to take it down a notch, let me know so I can do a bit slower, or send some supplementary work to revise on that. Jenna, all good as well with all this? Keeping up?
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice. Good job. All right, let's do another one. Again, you draw the box. You can call it whatever you like now that you start to get the hang of it. X equals 0, y equals. Y equals 0, x equals. Okay, let's start. X is 0. So that means that bit there is going to be just 0. You can start ignoring them if you know it's 0. Plus 2y minus 8 equals 0. That's gone. 2y take away 8. You're solving for y. What would you do now?
Plus 8 on both sides,
And then,
divide it by 2. Divide each side by 2.
yeah, that's fine. I understand what you mean. Y equals to 4. And then do it again. Make the y bit equal to 0. That's gone. So you're just going to have 4x. Take away 8 equals 0. And I think we know we're going to plus the 8. And then again divide by the 4. What do we reckon? Better? As the third
Yeah.
question now? Good. The only mistake I've ever seen after students learn this, in this part of the topic, is this. They think this is an x value of 2 and a y value of 4. It's not 2 and 4. Remember, this is 1 point. This is another point. These are 2 different points. And they're intercepts anyway, so you gotta remember, intercepts means cutting the x-axis or the y-axis. So that's intercepting the y. That's intercepting the x. So here, your y-intercept is at 4. So it's intercepting there, where x is 0, and your x-intercept is at 2. There. And then you just draw a straight line. All right. Darius, all good with the equations as well?
Yeah.
Yep, good work. Done. Done. Now we're going points on lines. Let me just see what's left. The equations there. Okay, that's fine. All right. Last concept for this week. Yep, last concept for this week. All right. Points on lines. Not too difficult. All you're trying to see is that if a point lies on the line, then it must satisfy the equation. And you'll see what that means in a second. So list some points that lie on this line. I don't know, you could have said 1 and 5. You could have said 1.5 and 6. You could have said 2 and 7. And I think you guys get the idea. You could have said, let's try something down here. Negative 4 and, oh, no, you don't know what that is. That's not, oh, that is halfway. Yep, negative 4. No, sorry, negative. The x value is negative 3.5 and the y value is negative 4. So negative 3.5 and negative 4. Let's do this one here. That is at negative 4, negative 5. Negative 4 and the y value is negative 5. So these are all points that lie on the line. I think that pretty much makes sense. K is a point that lies on this line. Y equals negative 4x. The coordinates complete. The coordinates of K are negative 2, and what would the y value be? Anyone have any ideas of how to work out the y value of this if it lies on this line?
It's negative 2.
Yeah, it's negative 2
Negative 2. Why would you say that?
because of the right
It's-
angle.
Ah, wrong.
Oh, what?
Actually, here's another one. If you said negative 2, doesn't that look like it's in positive direction?
Oh, it's 2. Positive 2.
Positive 2. No, that's still incorrect. Okay. Let me maybe give a clue out.
8.
Say it again.
8.
8. How did you get that?
I substituted negative 2 to negative 4 times negative 2.
That's it. We know that the x value is equal to negative 2. This is just like you saying a table of values. Let's say if I told you there's x, there's y. This is at negative 2. Go find me the y value. You guys should remember that you can just sub it in. See how I just changed the question slightly and it confuses you. You've got to know everything you've done so far comes into play. So you can't change your methods. X is negative 2. To find your y, you're just going to sub it in as x being negative 2. And then there it is. Y equals to positive 8. So the coordinates of K are negative 2 and positive 8. All right. Anyone not get that one? Find the coordinates of the points on the graph for the given x value for the graph. So again, you pretty much look what you're doing. So find the coordinates of the points on the graph for the given x values. So if x was negative 1, what would the graph be? What would the coordinate of that point be? All you're going to do is just sub it in. Just think about it. You have a graph. Let me just hypothetically say this was the graph. And you want to work out what the y value is when x is negative 1. Well, that's just like you plugging it into a table of values, right? It'll look like this. 4 times negative 1, negative 4, take away 5 is negative 9. So what's your coordinate? It'll be x is negative 1, and your y value would be negative 9. Do we get that?
Yeah.
And do we now see that it kind of makes sense that that's what you've been doing with your table of values. So this would be the backwards when I was saying step 3, step 2, step 1. So you know the x value. You just got to find the y value and find your coordinate. But that's simple. What about if it was 0? Well, same thing. You're going to get y equals 4 times 0, which means negative 5. So your point would be at 0 and negative 5, somewhere here. We'll call that A. So that was C, that's A. And then x is 20. Again, it doesn't really make a difference where it is. That's 80, take away 5, 75. So your coordinate is 20 and 75. We'll call that B, somewhere there. That's 20, and that can be 75, and that can be point B. I graph this. You don't need to graph this. I'm just trying to show you how simple it is. So I think the lesson you want to take out of this, if I have a x value, I can find a y value. So if I have an x value, I can find a y value by subbing into the equation. And of course, vice versa. If I had a y value, I can find a x value by subbing it into the equation. So if I had y, you just sub in the y value and you solve for x. So let's just say, if I did say y is equal to -1, find me the x value. Well, that's easy. You just do this. Y is -1. See? Again, you're solving for x. So what's the first thing you would do if you're solving for x here? Plus the 5.
And
And then
4.
divide by 4. So when y is -1, x is +1. So you guys got to, I think that's a big lesson to be taken out from this. If you ever have one of the letters, if you've got the x is -1, you can actually find the other letter by substituting it back in. And then from that, you can get your points. Your points are x is 1 and your y is -1. So big lesson learned from that. I could safely say year 12 students still haven't mastered this. So that's how important this lesson is. If I've got an x, I can find the y. If I've got a y, I can find an x. All you've got to do is just substitute it back in. Very, very important lesson. Okay. Here we go. And again, use this graph to determine the x coordinate when the y coordinate is -5. Y coordinate's y coordinate's -5 right there. Go to the left. X value is x equals -4. It says do this algebraically as well. So we know the equation. That's literally what I was just teaching you above. You know the y coordinate is -5. So what do I do? What do I make? -5. The y or the x?
The y.
And what are you solving for?
X.
That's it. -5, -3, -8. Because you would minus this to bring it over. The opposite of +3, -3. And then you'll divide by 2. So x equals, same answer, graphically and algebraically. All right, beautiful, beautiful work. Why don't you guys try this, and then we'll mark it together, just now. Scribble a few things down. You're just trying to find the x, given that y is 11. So I'll write you the first line. It'll look something like this. 11 equals 4x minus 5. 0 equals 4x minus 5. And then y is 23. So 23 equals 4x minus 5. Go and solve for x. Solve for x. Solve for x.
Am I finished?
Done? You want to go ahead and give me your answers real quick then? Might as well. X equals?
For the first one, I got 4.
Yep, that's correct.
Second one, I got 5/4.
Correct.
And the last one, I got 7.
Yep, perfect. I'll just wait. Does anyone have any questions or confused or want to see
Yeah, so I'm confused.
with all of them?
Yeah.
All
Just
Do you first understand how I got the first line out?
Yeah,
of
and I
each
had
one?
got the first line, how y
Okay.
and then equals.
11. Okay, so then we're
Yeah.
trying to solve for x plus the 5. So 11 plus 5. Do you
16.
agree with that? Do you agree
Uh,
with me saying plus 5?
So you're moving it over to the 11 side, making it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So you do the opposite,
Yep.
which means that becomes 16.
Yeah.
And that becomes 4x. And then, of course, what do you do to both sides?
Oh, and you just
Same thing here, plus the 5. Divide by the 4. Plus the 5. Divide by the 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, good now. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? All right. Might determine algebraically if this point lies on the line. So how would you know if this point lies on this line? What needs to happen? Now, if you're starting to understand the question, so like, imagine that was that line, imagine that was this graph. How would you know if this point lies on this line? Think about what you've done.
You have to
Well,
do.
yeah, substitute it in, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that means it doesn't lie on this line, it's somewhere here. So let's see. Y, what's the y value here? And that's the x value. Y, -2, right? Y is -2 equals -2 times x minus 1. So all I did is I replaced the y for the y value, I replaced the x for the x value. And if the left-hand side equals to the right-hand side, then it's true. And I think what I can see here is the right-hand side gives me 2 times 3 is 6. 6 take away 1 is 5. Does -2 equal to 5? Does not lie on the line. Again, this one here, 100% will be in your exam. They ask this pretty much every single year. So all you've got to do is just sub it in. So let's try another one. Determine if this point lies on this line. Well, again, this is your x, this is your y. If it's to lie on the line, that means it must work. So your x value has to be 2, and your y value has to be 5. Let's see if it's true. 5 equals x is 2 plus 3. Does 2 plus 3 equal to 5? Yes. Lies on the line. All right. Leave those two. I'm not going to give that for homework. I'm pretty happy with that for today.